Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me for this segment where we're going to talk about the legislative advocacy process. And, we have coming up on February 6th an Autism Awareness Day at the Florida Capitol, followed by Developmental Disabilities Day on February 7th. And so we hope that you guys will join us there, but we also hope that you will help us engage with our legislators no matter where you live. And even if you can't make it to the Capitol on those 2 days, your engagement is really super important. So I'm going to share a screen with you and we're going to talk about how you can be part of that process. So, Legislative Advocacy 101. And I call it 101 because we're going to review some things that no matter if you are a super novice when it comes to the legislative advocacy process, all the way up as, being someone who really has got this and you really understand the process. I wanted to kind of review the soup to nuts kind of stuff. All right, so things are going to happen in Tallahassee, and so you get to choose to be there and part of it or not. But legislators are making decisions. Different things are being done. Bills are going to pass or not pass, and you need to be part of the decision-making process, or else, frankly, we don't have anybody to blame but ourselves. Okay, so you could either choose to be a victim of the system, or you could choose to influence it. So advocacy at work. Okay. So you elect your legislators. So hopefully you are voting, no matter if that is your city council, your county commission, your mayor, your senator, your congress member. You guys are the people who put them there. They don't get there just by the luck of the draw. So people go out and they vote, and we want to make sure that you have everything that you need so that you can do that. And remember that they serve you. That's actually their job. I know sometimes in politics it doesn't seem like that's the way it is, but it is. Okay. So they serve you. They have to meet with you. They have to talk to you. They don't get to just say, oh, well, no, I don't really like your topic, so I won't be speaking to you. Um, Democracy, we do live in a democracy. It requires that the voice of the people be heard and be part of the decisions that they make. Policymakers cannot serve you unless they hear from you. And, unfortunately, I think that if you are a young person of today, I think that perhaps you depend a little too much on social media. And you have to show up. You just do. So if you want to use social media to gather the troops to show up, whether it's at a meeting at their local office or at an event that's maybe happening in your neck of the woods, a delegation meeting, or going to Tallahassee and meeting with other people there and going and meeting with your legislators, that is what influences policy. Making comments on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or a TikTok video, that people can unfollow you. I know legislators that aren't even on TikTok, and they don't want to be on TikTok. So they are not influenced by it because they're not even following it. It doesn't work. You have to be there. You have to meet with people. You have to tell them your personal stories. If you don't speak out, who's going to, right? Who understands the issues better than you do? Like nobody. Nobody else can speak for you knowing your story. Yes, other people can kind of say, talk a little bit about what they know about you, but nobody can tell legislators how you are personally affected by the decisions that they make. And so, again, whose voice is going to be heard? There are many organizations out there, large companies, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies that have very powerful lobbyists. They make lots of money. So if you're not there, if you're not speaking up for yourself or your loved ones, and maybe that lobbying group is against what you believe or what you think, you have got to be there. You've got to be the one that's speaking up for yourself. Because if you're not, nobody else will. Why should that voice be yours? Because you care passionately. This is you and this is your family. You're knowledgeable about your needs. Again, nobody knows your needs better than you do. You're able and willing to share with others what you know and experience. Again, personal experience is your personal experience. If you ever watched the State of the State address and like for Florida, with the governor speaking to members of our state legislature, or if you're watching the president speak at the State of the Union in Washington. Yes, they might give some information about what they want, what they hope, but the big ticket item during those presentations is when they point up to the gallery and they talk about the people that are up there in the gallery, their personal stories, whether it is a veteran who lost his life or lost a limb, or someone who has been affected by the opioid epidemic, or somebody whose education was not nearly what it should have been in order to prepare them for life. Those are the things that influence the policymakers that they're speaking to. It's not the statistics. It's not the analytics that they get from somebody who crunches numbers. It's from the personal stories. And so we need to do the same. We need to use our personal stories and share those as much as you are willing with the people that are in a position to make things happen, to benefit you and your lives. So why should we be legislative advocates? May not like politics. A lot of people don't. And I got into it kicking and screaming. So I certainly don't like it. But you cannot ignore the consequences of politics, especially for those who may not be able to speak for themselves. We have many people in our community who they cannot go to Tallahassee. They cannot go to Washington. They struggle just to kind of get groceries each day or each week. And so we recognize that. And so we need to be able to talk to our legislators about our overall community and the needs that our community has, and to help those who may not be able to talk to those legislators for themselves. So here's just some examples of different types of advocacy, because I think it's important that you know that you don't always go to the state legislature with certain issues. So for instance, in New York City, they wanted to do this thing with window bars on apartments that have children in them. And so that was a New York City law that was passed. And we have different states that have helmet laws. Some states, like our state, had a helmet law, doesn't have a helmet law. So those laws can change over time, but that would be an example of a state law. And then, of course, we have federal laws, such as the Americans with Disabilities Act. So you have to at least know a little bit about which entity you're going to go to with the type of bill that you're interested in seeing become a law. So you have to go vote. If you don't vote, then you really can't blame anybody for the decisions that are made. So you have to get out there. You have to do your due diligence. Don't just vote Harry-Carry. I mean, know why you're voting for the person that you're voting for, because that's really important. Talk to that person before they even get into office if you can. They all travel around, speaking on the stump, if you will, as they're running for office. So talk to them then. Make sure that you get in their ear and let them know what it is that's important to you. You're going to find out who they are, right? Got to find out who they are. I'm going to give you a QR code in a few minutes here where you can click it and be able to get to that. Call them in support or against a bill. There's some bills that you're going to support. And I'm going to share with you in a few minutes a bill that I don't know yet because I haven't totally checked out the bill, but I have a feeling I'm not going to be in support of a bill. So you want to be able to speak to both sides. But you can't do that if you don't have the information. Write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper. Write an op-ed. Those are really cool because, again, those you could share your personal story. And really, when you look at the news these days, so much of it is personal opinion, whether you're a broadcaster or somebody from a newspaper. And so you guys also have an opinion. So you want to be able to give your opinions through your local newspaper and share with them how you are personally affected by those decisions that are being made for you and about you, with or without your 2 cents. Lobby visits. Lobby visits, lobby visits, lobby visits. So that means, meeting with these people. You can go to their local offices. However, a week ago, so depending upon, I guess, when you're watching this, but on the 8th of January is when our legislative session began. So many of these people are not home right now. So they're not in their local offices. So just so that you know, though, every legislator, they might go to Tallahassee to work for 60 days. That's it. It's 60 days. The session is 60 days long. But the rest of the year, they have home-based offices, which are in your local area. So no matter where you live in the state, they have an office that's not too far from you. You can go meet with them. Meet with their aides. Aides are wonderful. I cannot tell you how important it is not to think that the legislative aid is not important. They are. I have met with members of Congress where I was disheartened because I wanted to meet with the Congress member. I meet with the aide, give him my whole story about why I'm there, what I'd like them to do. Walks in the Congress member and looks, introduces himself. We say hi, hello, and all that stuff. And then looks at his aide and says, okay, what are we doing? And the aide says, well, she would like you to, blah, 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 blah. What do you think? Oh, sounds good. Okay, we're in. So legislative aides hold a tremendous amount of power. So do not discredit them. It's really important. So if you get to meet with an aide, take that opportunity. Don't worry about it if you don't get to talk to or meet with the legislator. On February 6th, there's going to be an Autism Awareness Day at our state capitol. So just to review a little bit on this, I hope that you guys can come. I hope you can attend. I think it's going to be a wonderful day. We have so many things that we want to cover. We have 4 bills that we're working on. I'm going to share those in a minute. But at 9 o'clock, we're going to do Advocacy 101, where we're going to talk a little bit about the layout of the Capitol, because if you've never been there, it can be a little confusing. Got the House on one side, the Senate on the other, and then they got this tall building in the middle. And you can see it on this picture in the back. So in the front there, if you haven't been there, that front building, that's the old Capitol. It's actually a museum now. And it's really cool and it's free. So when you go, definitely check out the old Capitol. It's really neat. The building behind it, that tall building, so there's the tall building in the middle, and then what you can't see in that picture, there's the rest of the Capitol that kind of spreads out this way. And so like I said, you have the House, you have the Senate, and then you have some of those offices in the middle. And if you're interested, the Department of Education, for those who are into that, are just a couple blocks behind the Capitol and off to that side. So there are lots of opportunities to be able to meet with people, schedule your appointments, and kind of hit a lot of stuff while you're there on the same day. So 10 o'clock, that's we're going to try to do a group photo. So if you are going to be there for the Autism Day, I hope that you will join us. We're going to be on the second floor rotunda, and you'll see it there at the bottom. So second floor rotunda, we're going to have a booth. We hope that you guys will come and join us there for a photo opportunity. I'm hoping to have some legislators there. But the thing that you need to know about Tallahassee is that when it's in session, you do not know what you're going to get until very close to that time. So we won't have the schedule till close to that date. The House could be in session, the Senate could be in session, there could be committee meetings happening all over the place. So I don't know that we're going to get some at 10 o'clock to come for the group photo, but from 10:15 on, that's when we go and we meet with our legislators. So I encourage you, if you're going to be there, call now, get your appointments locked down. And again, it's okay to meet with an aide, but get those meetings set so that when you're there, you have a schedule, you know where you're going to be from minute to minute. That I believe that they're going ahead and they're making those, they're putting people on the schedule now. So just the areas that the Autism Society is working on this year, and I'll go over a few other ones in a minute, but we're focused on drowning prevention. 94 children died last year in the state of Florida from drowning. It's a huge issue for us. Education, safe schools, gotta have safe schools, and first responder training, okay? And again, second floor rotunda. All right, so the importance of connections. The most powerful thing that you can say when you meet them is, I'm your constituent and I vote, okay? And then you might also want to say, I work with your constituent. So if you're not that person's constituent, but maybe you're running an organization, you have a nonprofit, you could say that I work with your constituents, and this is my role in helping them. These are the stories that I hear from your constituents. Make connections with them and stay in touch. Legislative advocacy is not a one and done. You cannot talk to them once a year or make a call one time, send one email. It doesn't work that way. I was disheartened last year by the attention to drowning, particularly of children in the state. And so this year I kind of made it my mission. So literally every 2 weeks of the year, I sent the legislators and their aides an email that gave them the updated numbers. So 20 children have died, 30 children, 60 children, 70, 94 children have died this year. and this is what we're asking you guys to do. And when I would show up, because I encourage you to do that too, you can literally show up at their offices, and you can make an appointment definitely, but you can always just stop by. There's usually somebody there working in the office. You could just stop by. And whenever I would do that, and I would kind of introduce myself as I'm the crazy lady who's sending you all those emails, every single time the aide would say, no, 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 that is exactly what you have to do. So never feel like too many emails is too many emails, too many calls is too many calls. You want to be focused. You want to be short, sweet, to the point. Do not send long emails. They will not read them. Try to be as succinct in your subject line and individualized in your subject line as you can. And I encourage you not to, like, I want to say cookie cut. Like, if you have an organization that sends you, okay, use this sample letter, and you just stick your name on it, I don't like those. And I've had legislators say they're not effective. They literally go through and they count them, but they don't do much more than that. So I think from experience that the more personal you can get, the better it's going to be for your outcome. And like I said, it's not quick. It takes dedication. Politics are local. And, I think if the last couple of years have taught us anything, is that yes, Washington has some control, but the states have an enormous amount of state rights. And then your state has these rights, and then your local government has even more rights and more laws. And so there's several layers. And so no matter where you live, you have a story to tell, you have an experience to share. So you talk to your local legislator, you have a Senate member and you have a House of Representative member. Everybody has. That is not to be confused with the people who are senators, but they go to Washington to work, like Senator Rubio. Okay. Senator Rubio is in Washington, so not that he's not important, but he doesn't have power to write state bills. He's working on federal stuff. So if you have something that's a state bill, then you need to find out who your state senator is. And I'll show you how in a minute. Power plays a part in the process, right? Our issues are not partisan, but the process is. So that means you have to understand that the party that holds the majority holds the power. Right now in Florida, we have what's called a supermajority on the Republican side. So if you are passionate about something and you go and you get a bill that is sponsored on both the House and the Senate side, because every good bill has both House and the Senate sponsor, and then hopefully even more sponsors as it grows. But if you have both in this situation today, both are Democrats that maybe don't historically do a good job in crossing the line and working well with Republicans, bill doesn't have a whole lot of chance. It's politics. So you want to make sure that you tell them this is nonpartisan. My issues are for all people, every diversity, including how diverse your political party happens to be. Okay, so those in leadership have a great amount of power, because if you have the supermajority of Republicans, then you're going to have a lot of the different committees are also going to be led by Republicans, and the committee chairs get to decide if a bill is even going to be heard. Last year, they had like 2,000 bills that were actual bills, but they didn't all get heard, of course. There wouldn't be enough time for that. So you have to know that the leadership determines if a bill is going to be heard or if it's not. Right, so a breakdown in the Florida legislature, because I think it's important for you guys to kind of know what all this means. So you have the two, right? I said the House of Representatives and the Senate. So the representatives, they are elected to serve 2-year terms, and they get to serve up to 4 terms. So that means 8 years, and then they're out. Okay, so because Florida, we have term limits. There's 120 of them. And then on the Senate side, they get to do 4-year terms, and they get to do 2 of those. So again, 8 years. There's 40 of them. Okay, and again, this is not to be confused with Washington and Congress, which is your House of Representatives, and the US Senate. That's different. And it is important to know that stuff. This year's legislative calendar. So it started on January 8th. Okay, this is the regular session. And then March 8th is the end. It is 60 days. They have 60 days to cover a tremendous amount of bills. That's why advocacy is so important. Because if you're not on top of it and you're not encouraging them to hear your bill, it's going to die. That's what they call it. It's going to die. So it either dies because it's not heard or it dies in committee. We don't want that. We don't want our bills to die. We want them to make it to become a law. So this is how it happens. So I guess the first thing is you go to your legislator and you're asking for a bill about a certain topic. Then the legislator sponsors the bill. It goes to this process called drafting, where that's fancy word for it gets all written up by people who know how to write bills. Then an HB is a House bill and an SB is a Senate bill. Ideally, you want to have both. Okay, so they call them companion bills. So the bill will keep the same number throughout the session, but then next year, if the same topic comes up because it didn't make it, then it'll have a different bill number next year. You need to know that number for reference, because if you just go in and you say, I want you to support drowning prevention of children with autism, they're going to say to you, what bill are you talking about? Or which appropriation request are you talking about? You have to know the numbers, or else they're going to have to go look it up. And do they want to take the extra step looking it up? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. So you want to be ready. You want to have that with you. The bill is sent to committees for votes. So it's sent to the committees, and then the committee chairs, they decide, are we going to hear this bill or not? Those meetings are open to the public. So you can go. You're in Washington, of course. In Washington. They're in Tallahassee, of course. And so you would have to be there. There's a paper that you can fill out as you walk in, and where you say that you want to be, part of the public comments. And then they get done with their stuff, like presenting and all that. And then there's an opportunity for public comment on that bill. Okay, so that is huge, because we've seen where legislators are really moved by the stories that come forward when a bill is being presented. And it could topple the whole thing. You could kind of get the feel like, oh, they're not going to vote in favor of this. A couple of parents, especially, who are up there talking about their children, or a self-advocate talking about how the laws are negatively affecting them in their life and the quality of care or their quality of overall life. And you see the whole thing turn. So it does. Your stories matter. Your individual stories matter. Your passion matters. So don't ever feel like it doesn't, because it's at the top of the pile, if you will. Okay, then you want to educate your committee members about the bill. So whether you get to go there or maybe in advance, that's when you want to let them know. So a lot of times, if it's something education related, it's going to get to the education committee. So there's a couple of those. So you can contact them, you can email them, you can call them and share with them. A bill can be killed if the committee chair determines it shouldn't go on the calendar. Both chambers have to vote and pass on the bill. So that means the House and the Senate, they got to vote on the bill. They pass it, the governor can sign it, or he or she can veto it. But then the senators can override the veto, which isn't likely to happen in a supermajority where most of them are the same party, the governor. So you can't count on that. All right, so for the Autism Society of Florida, here's the things that we're focusing on this year that we've worked super hard on doing. And you can join our Safe Schools Task Force, which basically focuses on the legislative items that we're looking at here. So autism training for law enforcement officers. There's the information there. You can also see it on our social media platforms, which I'm sure all of you guys are on. This one would require officers to be trained in person for at least 4 hours. Right now, the only requirement is that it be provided, not that they take it. So this one would be required that the officers have to have training in autism. And I have to say, we've trained thousands of police officers, and every time they tell us how beneficial it is to be in person, to hear the personal stories. So you don't want to discredit the ability to be able to be in person training these people. Same thing with our teachers. Cameras in classrooms. So these are classrooms of students with disabilities. We've had in Broward County this is the 3rd year now, and then it's out, is a pilot program on this. And so we want every family, no matter where they live in the state of Florida, to be able to have cameras in their child's classroom. So many of these kids either don't verbally communicate, have no way to communicate, or are really unable to share with their parent both the good and the bad things that may have happened in the classroom. So we don't want parents to be fearful sending their kids to school, and that's what we're finding right now. So we're really passionate about ensuring cameras in classrooms. Drowning prevention. So the Autism Society of Florida is seeking an appropriation where we would be able to provide swim lesson grants, door alarms to families, training to water safety instructors on autism to make sure that they have the skills that they need to teach kids with autism how to swim. And the elopement of students with disabilities. We were excited this morning. There was actually an article by one of the NPR stations in Florida on this bill, and why it's important and why these legislators are really advocating for this bill. And it would require that the school has to follow a certain protocol, like call 911 when a child can't be found. You would think that that would be, a no-brainer, but apparently it's not. So we actually had a child drown a couple years ago because they got out of school and they died. 911 was not called immediately, and that's what we want. And, I know that there are some statistics that say that 48% of children with autism wander or elope from safety, but I personally have not been a parent or met a parent of a child with autism who hasn't had that experience where your heart just drops because you turn and they're gone. And so I don't know where the 48% comes from. Definitely not anybody I've talked to. All right, so remember, legislators are generalists. They can see 1,000 bills a year. You have to not speak in special education terms or special needs terms. Do not use acronyms. They may not know what ESE stands for or ASD stands for. You have to remember that when you communicate with them. You want to be a source of information for them. You want to be the person they call when they have a question about something related to what you're an expert in. So that's where the relationships are really important. It takes many separate contacts with the legislator in order to make an impact. You cannot call them once or send them one email. It will not work. It just won't. If you don't know something, then you say that. And then you say, I'm going to get back to you with that. Do not lie. Do not make stuff up, because if you get caught, you're discredited and you're done. There's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. That's a really good question. I'm going to get back to you. All right, so when you reach out to your legislator, if you don't know who your legislator is, you can snap that QR code there, and it'll take you to the state site where you will plug in your address, your zip code, and all that good stuff, and it will tell you who your legislators are. So you want to call them, set up an appointment. You'll probably be speaking with an aide or assistant. That's fine. That link there, that's the QR code. You could say something like, I'd like to make an appointment with Representative so-and-so or Senator so-and-so to talk about such as why my child's classroom should have a camera. Or I'm a constituent and a parent of Bob. I'm going to be at the Capitol on February 6th as part of the Autism Awareness Day. I would love to come by and meet you. You got to be prepared for our 5-minute talk. I know sometimes if you're really lucky, they'll you get their ear and you can have the opportunity to go on and on. Top, I would say 30 minutes, but you really got to plan for 5. So what I do is I take like a little card that has my 3 top things that I want to talk about, and I hit those like right off the bat. And then if I'm still given more time, and then I'll go, okay, so you remember that first thing I was talking about, drowning prevention? Let me just tell you something about that with me, my child, my personal experience, or somebody that I know. So then you can come back and you can talk about it. If you know something about your legislator, which I hope all you guys got to do is check them out on that site, that site that you can use that QR code to get to. You could find out what they do when they're home. Are they teachers? because we do have legislators who are teachers. Are they doctors? I mean, they're all walks of life up there. So if you know a little bit about them, you can kind of guess at what they might be interested in. And you could come in that door, be highly beneficial. And then you want to say thank you. You want to thank them for their time. Above all else, you got to be honest, credible, consistent, because if you're not going to be invited back and they're not going to call you. All right, so there is our website and our phone number if you want to get to us. So a couple more things I just want to talk about real quick. So there are some other bills that I think are pretty important that you guys should be aware of. You can go to the ARC of Florida website and get this list, because that's where I got it from. And follow them also on social media, because they have a really good legislative platform and things that they're addressing. Also, the Florida Developmental Disabilities Council at fddc.org. They also follow them on social media. They keep track of all this good stuff. So the first one is House Bill 1047, and that's called Home and Community-Based Services Medicaid Waiver Program. Requires APD to develop and implement an automated electronic application process for specific services, and it goes on and on. So if you're interested in the whole med waiver thing, you want to check that bill out. The next one is House Bill 829, Senate Bill 864. That's the autism spectrum. That's the law enforcement training one. So we're really happy that they're working on that one too. The next one is House Bill 783, Medicaid Managed Care Plan Performance Metrics, requiring Medicaid managed care plans to submit a certain performance metrics monthly to the Agency for Healthcare Administration. Managed care, or HMOs, are coming. I don't think that we're going to be able to avoid it. But we can ask for basically monitoring and oversight, because what we want to make sure, I don't know if you guys know about this or not, but so HMOs, right? There's only one pot of money. So your insurance company, whether it's Medicaid or your own private insurance, so your insurance company get this much money to cover services for medical care, right? When you bring in managed care, it's still this for just one pot of money. So managed care is going to get a little bit of that. Now, these managed care industries, companies, they say, yeah, but we're going to help you so much that it's going to elevate your services. But the fear of many people within the disability community is that this is going to go up and this is going to go down, right? So these people are going to make a bunch of money, but your services are going to go down because that pot of money did get less because some of it went over here. So that's just something that we need to stay on top of. We need to advocate. We need to advocate that our people continue to receive the services that they need, and that there's not a decrease in services, because now we have managed care. So you want to watch that one. Then House Bill 313 is Transparency for Autism-Related Services. So this requires the Agency for Persons with Disabilities or its designee to provide specified information when notifying an applicant of his or her eligibility determination. That one came out of because a lot of people, and many of you probably, applied for the Medicaid waiver and were denied. So not put on the wait list, but outright denied. And you receive this letter that seems like a bunch of legal jargon that is really hard to read and understand. So this is hopefully going to provide some more transparency to where you actually know what you're reading, so that if you want to fight that in disagreement, or maybe they didn't have all the documents that they needed, that you have an easier pathway to make that happen. Okay, so that was pretty important. And then House Bill 73, this is huge for self-advocates. So this is supported decision-making authority, requires court to consider needs and abilities of persons with developmental disabilities when determining whether to appoint guardian advocate, and it goes on. But really, that one is to be able to give people with disabilities more rights over their own lives. And that is hugely important. So we definitely want to support that and make sure that they have an onus and an ownership over the decisions that they want to make for themselves. I want to read, the other day I got notice on this bill, and I'm not sure yet how I feel about it, because it's long, it's 80 pages long. So this one is Senate Bill 7002. And it does not, as of today, when I'm doing this video, it does not have a companion bill on the House side. The House is actually in opposition to this bill. It is called the Deregulation of Public Schools / School District Finance and Budgets, Facilities, and Administration and Oversight. So the fear from the disability community is that the oversight and really how we depend upon our Department of Education to help us protect our children when our schools or our local school system isn't really doing that, that could be lessened or even diminished to a significant degree. So I haven't finished reading it all yet, so I don't have a black and white on that one, but I encourage you guys to read it again. It is Senate Bill 7002. And then the other one is House Bill 7039, so 7039, and it's just titled Education. And there are, I'm only to like page 22 on that one. There's actually some components that I think are kind of good. For instance, part of it is about pre-K and early intervention. And we don't get enough attention on those years. And, we like to, well, we don't like to, I guess, but we hear quite often about how pre-K is not covered under IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And so it's very wishy-washy on rights, and it's just very frustrating from an advocacy perspective. The importance of early intervention is there through the federal government, but we want to make sure that our young children have all the early intervention services that they need. So that might not be too bad, but I'm told that those two bills are in opposition to each other. But the other thing to know about those two bills is that they have what's called legs, and that means that they are moving. And when bills have legs, it typically means they are going to become law. They are going to pass. And because we're only 1 week in and they're already moving. So I encourage you just to read those in your spare time. They are long bills, and see what you think about them. And soon as the Autism Society kind of digests them and figures out, do we like them, do we not, you will see a post on our social media. If you don't get our weekly newsletters, you can check it out through the website. And I think we have a link on our social media as well to be able to get on our email list. And that's where we will give up-to-date information each week about the things that are important that we really need your participation in. So I encourage you guys to talk to your legislators. They're humans, just like everybody else. And remember to bring your personal story, because there is nobody else, nobody on the face of this planet who has your personal story and all the things that you've come through and that you're dealing with today, and hopefully are developing a better tomorrow. And so we can do that as a state if we engage with our legislators, remind them that the disability community is the fastest growing minority group in the world, and that if any one of us lives long enough, we are one day going to be a person with a disability as we enter our old age and need the accommodations and the extra support. And we want that for all of our loved ones, no matter what their age is, so that they can have the highest quality of life possible. All right, so I thank you guys for checking this out. I hope that I see you in Tallahassee on February 6th. Meet me in the Capitol on the 2nd floor of the Rotunda, which is the center part of the building. All right, have a good one. Bye.